Imagine waking up one day and realizing that most of what you think you know about yourself might not be entirely true. Think about it. How many of your decisions, emotions, and reactions truly come from your conscious will, and how many are simply echoes of patterns you've inherited, learned, or repeated without ever questioning? Today, we will dive into a fascinating journey, a journey into the mind, into the hidden chambers of your own identity, to uncover what it truly means to know yourself. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and share this video with someone who values deep reflection and self-growth, because what we'll explore here can truly change the way you see yourself, others, and the entire experience of being alive. Stay until the end. The final revelation may challenge everything you think you understand about who you are. Now let's begin. Throughout history, philosophers, psychologists, and spiritual teachers have returned again and again to one central question: who am I? From Socrates, who declared that the unexamined life is not worth living, to Carl Jung, who spoke of the shadow and the process of individuation, humanity has always sought to pierce through the illusions of the self. Yet in the modern world, surrounded by noise, distraction, and digital masks, knowing oneself has become not only difficult, but almost revolutionary. To truly know yourself is to stand naked before your own consciousness, without labels, without excuses, without pretending. It means confronting the truth of your desires, your fears, your contradictions. It means seeing not just who you appear to be, but who you are beneath the roles you play. Psychology teaches us that the self is not a single solid entity. Sigmund Freud proposed that our psyche is divided into layers: the id, the ego, and the superego, constantly interacting and sometimes clashing. Carl Jung expanded this idea, suggesting that we all carry within us a conscious self and an unconscious self, the parts of us that we can see and the parts we deny or ignore. But here lies the paradox. How can we know ourselves if much of who we are lives beyond our awareness? This is where self-knowledge becomes both a psychological process and a spiritual practice. The journey inward requires courage, patience, and above all, honesty. It's easy to point outward, to blame circumstances, people, or society for our struggles, but to turn inward, to face the hidden motivations behind our actions, that demands true bravery. Because once you see yourself clearly, you can never unsee. Think for a moment. How many of your opinions are truly yours? How many of your values, your ambitions, even your dreams have been subtly programmed by the expectations of others? From childhood, we are shaped by voices, parents, teachers, media, culture, each telling us who we should be, what we should want, how we should behave. Over time, we begin to mistake these voices for our own. And somewhere along the way, the authentic self, the one that once knew joy and curiosity naturally, becomes buried beneath layers of conditioning. The psychologist Abraham Maslow believed that self-knowledge is essential for self-actualization, the process of becoming everything we are capable of becoming. Yet few people reach this level because they live disconnected from their inner truth. They seek validation instead of meaning, achievement instead of authenticity. But Maslow warned, what one can be, one must be. In other words, the longing for self-knowledge is not optional. It is the soul's natural movement toward wholeness. To understand yourself deeply, you must learn to observe your own mind. The Buddhist concept of mindfulness offers a profound tool for this. It invites us to watch our thoughts, emotions, and sensations without judgment, to become witnesses of our own inner world. When you observe without immediately reacting, you begin to see the patterns, the fears that control you, the desires that drive you, the stories that define you. And that's the first step to liberation, realizing that you are not your thoughts, not your fears, not even your past. You are the awareness behind them. Carl Jung once said that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. This is one of the most powerful insights in all of psychology, that much of what we call destiny is simply unconscious repetition. We are often trapped in loops of behavior because we don't see the forces within us that keep recreating the same experiences. Knowing yourself means breaking those loops. It means reclaiming your inner freedom. So ask yourself right now, when was the last time you truly sat in silence, not to distract but to listen? When did you last question your reactions instead of defending them? When did you last feel the quiet certainty of simply being yourself without needing to perform for anyone? Perhaps deep inside you felt that call, the whisper that there's more to you than what you show, that beneath your personality there's a deeper essence waiting to be rediscovered. That whisper is the voice of your true self, and ignoring it comes at a cost, because every time you betray your authenticity to fit in, a part of you fades. But here's the hope. Everything you've lost can be remembered. The journey of self-knowledge is not about becoming someone new, but remembering who you truly are. And as we move forward, we'll explore not only how to uncover your true self, but also how psychology reveals the hidden mechanisms that keep you from seeing it. In the next part, we'll go deeper into the layers of the unconscious mind and the powerful psychological structures that shape your identity. Every human being carries within an invisible landscape the vast terrain of the unconscious. It is here that our forgotten memories, repressed desires, and unhealed wounds live. Though invisible, this hidden realm exerts immense power over how we think, feel, and behave. To truly know yourself, you must dare to explore this internal territory, even if what you find there makes you uncomfortable. Carl Jung described this inner world as a house with many rooms. The conscious self, the one you identify with daily, occupies only a small, well-lit space. But behind that room there are countless doors leading into the shadows, the forgotten parts of your psyche. Jung called this the shadow self, everything you deny, repress, or refuse to see in yourself. Yet paradoxically, within that darkness lies the key to wholeness. Think about it. Every time you judge someone harshly, feel intense jealousy, or overreact to criticism, you're not seeing the world as it is. You're projecting your inner conflicts onto it. The people who irritate us often mirror traits we've buried in ourselves. When you condemn arrogance in others, perhaps it's because you fear your own potential for pride. When you despise weakness, maybe you're avoiding the parts of you that once felt powerless. This process is called projection, and recognizing it is one of the most powerful steps in self-knowledge, because when you stop projecting, you begin integrating, reclaiming lost fragments of who you are. But self-knowledge isn't only about understanding your darkness, it's about uncovering your light, the dormant potential hidden beneath years of self-doubt and conformity. The psychologist Viktor Frankl, a survivor of the concentration camps, believed that every person possesses an inner strength capable of transcending suffering. He wrote that those who have a why to live can bear almost any how. Knowing yourself means discovering that why, that deep, unshakable purpose that no external circumstance can take away. Ask yourself now, what truly gives your life meaning? Not what society tells you should matter, but what awakens something alive inside you. What values would you defend even if no one else agreed? What activities make you lose track of time, filling you with quiet joy? The answers to those questions reveal your essence, the core of your being that existed long before fear or failure ever touched you. Yet many of us live disconnected from that core. We wear masks, the persona, as Jung called it, a socially acceptable version of ourselves built to please, to fit in, to survive. We perform roles at work, in relationships, even on social media. But the more we live through the mask, the more distant we become from our authentic self. And the longer that distance remains, the more anxiety, confusion, and emptiness begin to grow. Modern psychology confirms this. Studies in self-concept and authenticity show that people who live in alignment with their inner truth report higher levels of happiness, resilience, and life satisfaction. When you act in ways consistent with your values, your mind and body function in harmony. But when your actions contradict your truth, the psyche begins to fragment, resulting in stress, exhaustion, and even depression. So how do we bridge that gap between the person we show and the person we are? It begins with awareness. You must learn to observe yourself without judgment, like a scientist studying the patterns of your own mind. Watch how you react when someone challenges you. Notice what triggers your defensiveness, what makes you shrink, what awakens joy. Every reaction tells a story. Every emotion is a messenger revealing something about your inner world. Sigmund Freud once said that being entirely honest with oneself is a good exercise. And yet it is one of the hardest exercises of all, because true honesty requires the courage to confront contradictions, to admit when your motives are mixed, when your compassion hides pride, when your confidence masks fear. But this is where real growth happens, in the willingness to see yourself clearly, without justification or shame. This clarity transforms your relationships as well. When you understand your own wounds, you stop expecting others to heal them. When you recognize your patterns, you stop blaming others for triggering them. You become more compassionate, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom, because you begin to see that everyone is fighting an inner battle you cannot see. Knowing yourself also means acknowledging your limits. Many people confuse self-knowledge with self-criticism, but they are not the same. Self-knowledge is rooted in acceptance, not rejection. It's saying, "This is who I am right now, imperfect, evolving but willing to grow." That acceptance is what allows transformation. What you resist persists, but what you accept begins to change. One of the greatest lessons of psychology is that the self is not static. It is a process. You are not a fixed identity, but a continuous unfolding. Every experience, every mistake, every act of awareness reshapes you. So, knowing yourself is not a destination. It is a lifelong journey. Each insight brings you a step closer to inner freedom. As we go deeper, we'll explore how your mind constructs reality itself, how perception, memory, and belief shape not only how you see the world, but who you believe yourself to be. And in that discovery lies the possibility of awakening, the moment you realize that self-knowledge is the foundation of all transformation, because to master your life, you must first understand your mind. Every perception you have of the world begins within your own mind. What you call reality is filtered through layers of memory, expectation, belief, and emotion. In other words, you do not see the world as it is, you see it as you are. This is one of the most profound truths of psychology. Your mind doesn't simply reflect reality, it actively creates it. The philosopher Immanuel Kant once wrote that the mind is not a blank canvas, but a lens that organizes experience. Every thought you've ever had, every feeling you've ever suppressed, forms part of that lens. When you meet someone new, that person's image doesn't enter your mind untouched. It's instantly compared with your past experiences, your fears, your hopes, your memories. So in a very real sense, your outer world mirrors your inner world. This realization can be unsettling, because if what you perceive is shaped by your inner state, then changing your life begins not with the external world, but within yourself. And yet, most people spend their entire lives trying to rearrange circumstances, without ever examining the lens through which they view them. They change jobs, partners, cities, and dreams, but the same patterns follow them, because they haven't changed the observer. Carl Jung once said, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart." To look within is to reclaim the power you've given away to circumstances. You stop being a victim of life and become an active participant in your own becoming. Self-knowledge is not self-absorption, it's self-liberation. Neuroscience confirms this timeless insight. Research shows that the brain constantly interprets sensory input through a predictive model. It guesses what reality is based on expectation. This means your mind literally shapes your perception before you're even aware of it. That's why two people can experience the same event and come away with completely different memories. Each is seeing through the architecture of their own consciousness. But here lies an incredible opportunity. If perception is shaped by the mind, then by changing your awareness, you can change your experience of reality. This is what mindfulness, meditation, and cognitive therapy all aim to achieve, the ability to step back and see the thoughts and emotions that once ruled you. When you learn to observe your mental patterns instead of identifying with them, they begin to lose their power. You realize that your anger, your jealousy, your fear, they are not you. They are experiences passing through you. Have you ever noticed how thoughts seem to appear out of nowhere? You don't choose most of them, they simply arise. But what you can choose is whether to believe them. This is the essence of self-awareness, the capacity to witness your own mind in action. When you start questioning your inner dialogue, asking, "Is this thought true? Is it useful? Does it serve who I want to become?" you begin to take back control. The unconscious becomes conscious, and your life begins to shift. Modern psychology calls this process metacognition, the ability to think about your own thinking. It's the skill that separates impulsive reaction from conscious choice. Through metacognition, you start to see that your emotions are not random storms, they're messages. Anger may be pointing to a boundary you've ignored. Sadness may reveal something you've lost, but haven't yet grieved. Anxiety may be signaling a gap between how you live and what you truly value. When you listen instead of suppress, those emotions become teachers. But awareness alone is not enough. You must also cultivate compassion. Many people turn self-examination into self-criticism, judging every flaw they discover. But true self-knowledge blossoms only in kindness. The great psychologist Carl Rogers believed that human beings can change only when they feel accepted as they are. He wrote, "The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change." Acceptance opens the door to transformation. This compassion also reveals something extraordinary, that the more you understand yourself, the more deeply you can understand others. The walls between me and you begin to soften. You realize that everyone carries insecurities, everyone hides pain, everyone longs to be seen. The act of knowing yourself becomes an act of connecting with humanity itself. In fact, some of the greatest spiritual traditions point to this unity. The ancient Greeks inscribed above the temple of Apollo at Delphi the words, "Know thyself." They believed that self-knowledge was not only personal, but cosmic, that to understand the self was to understand the universe. Centuries later, mystics, sages, and psychologists alike would echo this truth in different languages, that consciousness is both individual and universal, and that awakening begins when you recognize that the self you seek has never been separate from the whole. Ask yourself, who would you be if you dropped every label, every story, every identity you've collected? If for a moment you forgot your name, your history, your roles, what would remain? That awareness, that still presence behind all experiences, might just be the essence of who you truly are. The journey of knowing yourself, then, is not about adding more information. It's about peeling away illusion until only truth remains. In the next part, we'll bring everything together, exploring how this understanding can transform not only your inner world, but your daily life. We'll look at how to live with greater authenticity, peace, and purpose, and how the final key to self-knowledge is the courage to live your truth. To know yourself is not merely to understand your thoughts or analyze your emotions. It is to awaken to the truth that you are both the observer and the observed, the thinker and the thought, the dreamer and the dream. Everything you've experienced, every triumph and every wound, has been leading you toward this simple but transformative realization that awareness itself is who you are. Think of your life as a great mirror. Every relationship, every challenge, every joy reflects a piece of your inner world. People who enter your life act as teachers, some with kindness, others through pain, but all guiding you toward deeper understanding. The more conscious you become, the more you see that nothing is random. Every event carries meaning. Every moment holds the potential for awakening. When you begin to live from this understanding, your perception of life changes completely. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this revealing about me?" This shift is the essence of psychological and spiritual maturity. You move from resistance to responsibility, from confusion to clarity. You stop reacting to life and start participating in it consciously. The great psychologist Erich Fromm wrote that man's main task in life is to give birth to himself. That is what knowing yourself truly means, to take responsibility for your own becoming. Not to repeat the patterns of the past, not to live as a reflection of others' expectations, but to create yourself through awareness, choice, and authenticity. This process never ends. You are a work of art constantly being painted by your own consciousness. Authenticity is the natural outcome of self-knowledge. When you know who you are, you no longer need to prove it. You no longer chase approval because your worth no longer depends on the eyes of others. You begin to live from a quiet inner strength, guided not by fear but by truth. You can stand alone without feeling lonely because you are at home within yourself. And this authenticity radiates outward. It inspires others to be real too. Every time you act with honesty, every time you choose integrity over image, you give permission for others to do the same. This is how one awakened individual can influence an entire environment, not through force, but through presence. In practical terms, self-knowledge transforms every area of life. It makes your relationships deeper because you no longer demand that others fill the emptiness you once denied. It sharpens your purpose because you begin to align your actions with your inner values. It even changes your relationship with time. Instead of rushing toward the next goal, you start living fully in the present moment, knowing that this moment is where life truly happens. Philosophers from the Stoics to the existentialists have echoed this wisdom. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Jean-Paul Sartre reminded us that we are condemned to be free, that freedom means taking full ownership of our choices. And modern psychology agrees. Your thoughts, your beliefs, your attention, these shape not only your mood, but your entire experience of reality. Knowing yourself gives you the power to shape them consciously. But the final and most powerful revelation of all is this: the more deeply you know yourself, the more you realize that there is no separation between the self and life itself. The boundary begins to dissolve. You understand that the same intelligence that beats your heart also moves the stars. The search for self-knowledge ends not in isolation, but in connection, with humanity, with nature, with existence itself. When you reach this point, you stop trying to find yourself as if you were missing. You realize you were never lost. You were simply looking outward for what was always within. The self you've been seeking is the awareness that has been witnessing every thought, every emotion, every experience since the beginning. It was never hidden, only overlooked. So what does it mean ultimately to know yourself? It means to live awake, to see clearly, to act with intention rather than reaction, to listen to the quiet voice within and trust it, even when the world grows loud. It means understanding that self-knowledge is not the end of the journey, but the foundation of all wisdom, compassion, and freedom. You begin to understand that peace doesn't come from changing who you are, but from accepting yourself completely, light and shadow, strength and weakness, past and present. The moment you stop running from yourself, you begin to live in harmony with life. And as you walk this path, with awareness, courage, and authenticity, you become something far greater than an individual chasing meaning. You become a vessel through which consciousness itself can see, learn, and evolve. You become part of a timeless movement, the awakening of the human spirit. So as this journey comes to a close, remember this: knowing yourself is not a luxury, it is a necessity. It is the foundation upon which everything else stands. Without it, success feels empty and relationships remain shallow. But with it, even the simplest moment, a conversation, a sunrise, a breath, becomes sacred. The invitation is clear: pause, look within, and begin again. The greatest adventure of your life is not out there in the world. It is within the vast and uncharted depths of your own being. Because when you truly know yourself, you don't just find peace, you find life itself. Thanks for looking.